So something really interesting about superhero movies is that there are a ton of superhero movies that almost happened but didn't. And it's really cool to see the fact that when they're canceled, usually we know very little, if anything, about what those movies' plots would be. But then over the years, little nuggets of information about it will start to trickle in, and slowly over time we start to build the plot of these things. And just this past week, some information has come out about an earlier version of Suicide Squad 2. And when I say Suicide Squad 2, I mean Suicide Squad 2, not The Suicide Squad. Allow me to explain this. So a sequel to Suicide Squad was first announced a few months before Suicide Squad even came out, just because it was so highly anticipated, and David Ayer, the writer-director of Suicide Squad, was expected to come back. Apparently they wanted to start filming this movie in 2017, likely for a release sometime in 2018. If I had to guess, and this is just speculation, but maybe even then there was already some production troubles going on with The Flash, which was originally supposed to come out in 2018 before Aquaman, so maybe at this point they were considering delaying The Flash and making Suicide Squad 2 in its place, but that's just speculation. So then a few months after Suicide Squad came out in December of 2016, here we are, David Ayer announces he's no longer being the director of Suicide Squad 2 and will instead be developing a Gotham City Sirens movie. Now this kind of makes sense, especially since we know that there was a lot of post-production difficulties between David Ayer and Warner Brothers. They probably honestly mutually agreed that they didn't really want to work together anymore on a Suicide Squad 2 after Suicide Squad had such a bad reception. So what happened after that? Well, for a while, Warner Brothers just kind of kept cycling through a few different people that were going to write for the movie, until eventually Gavin O'Connor signed on as writer and director. And this version of the movie, which was going to be called Suicide Squad 2, was supposed to start filming in around October-ish of 2018 for a release probably in late 2019, where Justice League Part 2 was originally supposed to be released, because at this point it had already been decided that there wasn't going to be a Justice League 2. So this version of things ended up getting canceled about a month or so before filming was supposed to happen. And at the time, we didn't really know much about what was going to be in it. And all that we got as to why it was canceled was that it was just too similar to Birds of Prey. Though we didn't get told why it was similar, because obviously they wanted to not give away stuff about Birds of Prey since it hadn't even started filming yet, let alone come out. And Birds of Prey was a more high priority movie for Warner Brothers, which makes sense because, I mean, a lot of people have wondered why would they even make a Suicide Squad 2, you know? People didn't like Suicide Squad, and the reason is because even though Suicide Squad didn't do very well, people love Harley Quinn, and so making Suicide Squad 2 will bring in people just to watch Harley Quinn. And Birds of Prey is a Harley Quinn-centered movie that doesn't carry the baggage of the Suicide Squad title, so they're going to have a little bit more of a higher priority on that because they believe in it more to make more money. So this past week, Enterprise, in their new issue of their magazine, did a section on the Suicide Squad, and in that they talked a little bit about what Gavin O'Connor's version would have been. It's not a ton of information, but we can kind of break it down here. So first, let's talk about the cast. So the cast of Suicide Squad 2 would have brought back Amanda Waller and Rick Flag and Harley Quinn, as well as actually Deadshot, because Will Smith's schedule actually allowed for him to come back at the time. It's also possible, since Jai Courtney, who played Captain Boomerang, is coming back for the Suicide Squad, it's likely he would have been back for Suicide Squad 2. We don't know about other characters though. It's quite possible that maybe they were going to introduce some new villains to be characters in Suicide Squad 2. We don't really know that yet, but I suspect if that's true, over the years we'll get news start to trickle in about actors basically announcing that they had been cast as villains in Suicide Squad 2 that never ended up being in the movie. Because keep in mind, this was canceled like a month and a half before it started filming, so those characters were already cast. And likely, there was at the very least concept art for what their characters would look like, if not even prototype costumes. So that'll all start to trickle in over time. But the big things we're talking about here is the villain, and that is that it's been revealed that rumors at the time of Suicide Squad 2 about to be filmed that Black Adam would be the main villain of the movie are actually true. That Black Adam would have been the main villain of Suicide Squad 2, and that according to the rumors at the time, it's not really covered in in the article in Enterprise. But given that these rumors from the time now have a little more weight, apparently the rumors said that the Suicide Squad would kind of be investigating something, and then it would turn out that that's Black Adam, so they would have kind of stumbled upon it. And this is really interesting because this means that Black Adam would have actually been introduced into the DCEU, first as the villain of Suicide Squad 2, and then in his own solo movie, and then later on in Shazam 3, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I guess it is possible that maybe Black Adam in Suicide Squad 2 would have actually been like a hologram created by like the Riddler or something, and not actually Black Adam, but we don't really know that yet, so that's kind of crazy. And the last kind of thing that we learned about from this article was why it was similar to Birds of Prey and why it was canceled, and that is that both movies apparently featured the team of the title protecting a teenage girl that was really important to the plot. That's really well known in DC Comics, i.e. just like how in Birds of Prey, the Birds of Prey are protecting Cassandra Cain, in Suicide Squad 2, the Suicide Squad were going to be protecting a very prominent DC teenage girl throughout a bulk of the movie, which does kind of make sense. It's a pretty big plot point to have similar. We don't know who this character would have been. People are already speculating on it. I don't think there's really been anything that has a whole lot of weight to it. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think it would have been interesting to see this version of Suicide Squad? I would be open to it. I don't know if I would have liked it. And by that I mean, if I had to choose between the Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad 2, I'd probably go for the Suicide Squad. So what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for daily videos on the franchises you love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.